Hello, construction professionals. Welcome to the podcast where we flip the script on what it means to live, breathe, and lead construction today. In this podcast series, we unpack how great construction can really be when you lead with humanity, put people first, and drop the bullshit of the way it's always been done. Our world has changed, our conversations have changed, and it's time construction catches up. Hello, welcome professionals, another episode, People First, Then Construction. Jonathanacinelli here today. I have the pleasure of speaking with Jenna Wood. Now, Jenna and I connected through a mutual friend, and it is so magical. I'll tell you something, for anybody who knows me knows that much of my life and most of my career, the success has been driven when I've been around great women in the construction industry. In fact, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for some of the great women that stand beside me, alongside me, as we conquered things together. So I'm sharing that because it is something that is super passionate for me. I've always been a strong believer in actual true equality. I actually give a damn about women. I think women are instrumental to our industry, and it is only now at a point where it's being talked about more. So when I had an opportunity to connect with Jenna, who talks about women in construction, how that changes the landscape of everything we know, I'm moved and shaken and disrupted. This is like, man, we need to connect. My goodness, we need to connect. Jenna happens to work with AECON, and now I am a fan of some of the arms of AECON. I think that AECON can be up to some great things, and some of these platforms that they're introducing, the Aecon Women in Construction, also known as AWIT, is a really cool program. It takes a deep dive into the information, the attention, the awareness to young women, specifically at a younger age, deconstructs the limiting beliefs that I'm not good enough, I can't do that, and they've partnered with a bunch of different people along the way to really create a sustainable awareness of how construction can really shift things. Aecon believes in the program so much they pay for the training and education. This is a real big deal. Jenna gets into some interesting facts with this. We're still at a 97 and 98% male-dominated industry. And so we unpack how things change with women on the sites. This might not be for everybody. In fact, there's a lot of people who are pushing back saying, I'm being stereotypical and egotistical and degrading towards men. No, not at all. I'm illuminating the things that people don't want to hear. So if it strikes a chord with you, then maybe you need to peel back and go, what's my real philosophy? Is the messaging I'm communicating in line with what I actually believe? Because I'll tell you, for me, it absolutely is. I mean, you see that, you hear that, you get that, you'll hear the passion here. This one is magical. Jenna talks so deeply about how women have been disappropriately underrepresented in our industry and what we can do about that today, what we're doing about that today. So thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Have a listen. Pass this episode along to those who you think it will make a difference, so that the messaging, the conversations we have land in the orbit of others, and that we can really make a difference in construction. Jenna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is awesome. This is super exciting. I've been waiting to do this one for a long time. Introduced my mutual friend, and here we are today, and we're talking about some real things that matter, some really important things that I've been passionate about. And, as long as I've lived in the construction industry, there's always been that sort of pivotal moment in time to say, what is it with the traditional male-dominated, egotistical, big egos? And I don't say that because there's not all men are like that. There's a lot. And so now when we introduce programs like, what Aecon's offering is women in trades, it is magical, it's mind-blowing, and it's like, holy shit, thank you, right? So we're here today to talk about the AWIT program. I want to volley right into that. Tell us about AWIT. Tell us, how to start it, what's going on with it, how do we get involved in it, and ready, set, go.
Okay, sounds good. So the AWIT, or Aecon Women in Trades program, it was started in 2019, so a few years ago, and we were looking at a lot of discussion on how do we address the lack of female representation in our workforce? How do we address a increasing skilled labor shortage that we're faced with in the industry, and really do something about it? Like, we've talked about it, how do we actually do something? So we launched the AWIT program as a mechanism to say, okay, how do we attract women into the trades? into our organization, and what do we need to give them essentially to make them successful. So the program really was designed to recruit women into the program, train them, give them the necessary training they need, and ultimately provide them with an employment opportunity with Aecon at the end. So we started small. In 2019, we brought women in cohorts, essentially as in groups. So we brought in 2 cohorts of 10 to 12 women.
Okay.
That came in 2019. 2020 was obviously a challenging year for all of us, but we had a bit of a slow roll on additional cohorts with COVID. We did bring 1 in, and then last year into this year, 2021 and 2022 into this year is where we've really started to accelerate the number of women we brought in and to different areas of our business. So.
Okay, so like talk about acceleration. Give me some tangible metrics. What are you aware of? Like where have we started and where are we at today?
Yeah, so we started, we obviously have some women that work for us, but in terms of 2019 when we launched, I believe we were at 20 or 22 that we brought in. Last year, as an example, we brought in close to 100 in a year. So, and we're looking to bring in another over 100 in the next quarter, really, that we're looking to ramp up. So,
holy shit.
Yeah, so we've ramped it up significantly, looking at again, how do we provide opportunities in different trades, in different areas of our business, and in different geographic locations from where we started as a very, very small initiative. Really.
So, how do you create awareness around the program?
We've really ramped up awareness through social media this year, so or I guess in the last year, so looking at developing more of a recruitment campaign across social media platforms. We've been involved with kind of different employment organizations across the province who may have clients that they work with who are looking to get into the trades. We have support through schools that we may go and speak to. So a bit of a combination, and then word of mouth.
Handbrake here. There's a lot going on here. Yeah. Super exciting. When we talk about getting involved in schools, this is really, really instrumental and pivotal and very important to me for so many different metrics. And I've been a part of construction trades in schools, so I'm going to ask a specific question here. Like, at what age are we starting to communicate this message?
I think it needs to be earlier. Sure. So I would say, again, schools hasn't been one of our we've started to do more of that. It hasn't been one of our primary mechanisms, but I think, and I appreciate this is a whole other discussion, but I think even back to when I was in school,
sure,
the trades were never a topic of conversation. And so I consider, a good friend of mine who's now in the trades, who went to university. It wasn't for him. Now he ended up as a very successful electrician. If he had have had kind of the education and awareness of what a career in the trades could be and where he is today, maybe he wouldn't have gone the route he did to get there. So to me, it should start really elementary, definitely into high school. And not to say that's not happening, but I think there's a huge opportunity.
I'm with you on this.
Yeah.
Like there's a confirmation bias here in my head. Like I've had guests on the show that are young, up and coming professionals that it's like, and I have nephews that are 17 and 18 years old, and it's like, hey boys, anybody talking about construction? They look at me, deer in headlights. What the fuck are you talking about? No. Right? And we had an offline conversation before, coaching U16 hockey. Again, the realm of construction is in like a different galaxy. It's not even talked about. So when we come back to, bringing women into construction, it's amazing, to talk about the awareness. And I think I know the answers, but I want to ask it anyways. Like, really, who is it geared towards? How do we, with that awareness, there's obviously a market that's being targeted. Tell me a little bit about that market that's actually getting targeted to attract the women in. Yeah,
I think, so to be honest, there's been a few different demographics. We've looked at, obviously some women have come in that are relatively new out of high school, for example, or maybe they've done some trades college program and they're new into their career. There's other women who have come in as I'll call it second career. So maybe they've been in, particularly through COVID, where industries like hospitality changed dramatically, and looking at, okay, how do I kind of pivot into a new opportunity? Maybe it's something they've thought about exploring but didn't know how to in the past. Others maybe have older children and they're in the position where they want to re-enter the workforce. So a bit of a combination, I would say, kind of, I call it second career, but second career in terms of kind of exploring something new. They're not new into their career, so to speak, or new into the workforce, and then kind of I'll say fresh out of high school, or maybe college. So those two kind of areas.
Interesting. So is that, I'm making an assumption here, so please clarify. On the, I think it's the AWIT website, there's a hashtag trade up. Is that, coincide to what you're talking about? Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we developed that tagline, we'll call it, as part of our campaign in the last year, and the intent being it's an opportunity to trade up your current career, whatever you're working on, to get into something that provides you with increased knowledge and training. It's a generally a lucrative career to be in from a pay perspective, and looking at how do we trade up what you're currently doing for something new and exciting and challenging, and that has great benefits with it as well.
Yeah, and this stuff is not talked about, right?
Yeah.
People think construction is dirty, dark, disrespected, and it doesn't have to be. And there's a huge progression plan that can occur. And there's if you want in, it's like you start here, and the possibilities are almost endless. Like there's career opportunities that don't even exist today that will one day.
For sure.
Like construction is no different. This is huge. This is what we don't talk about. So when I hear that trade up, tagline, that's pretty cool, because now I'm in my mind, I'm super curious. Like on the other side of COVID, because COVID 2020, the hospital, you mentioned hospitality. Hospitality essentially shut down. Yeah. Right. So. And now we go into the hospitality industry, and you go pretty much anywhere, and you see that the hospitality industry is suffering from the workforce, right? I'm so curious, and I don't even know if it's even possible. But did you see a lot of hospitality people? Is there one industry that came from? Do you have those metrics? Like, do you know where people came from?
I wouldn't say I have key metrics or exact metrics to give you. I would say it's a combination. Again, hospitality, in whether someone was serving in a restaurant, and then more so on the retail side as well. So we've had people that have come in from retail, and then a few from, again, I'm branching off on hospitality, but even from healthcare, who may have been in that industry and that career, and through COVID decided, this is not the place for me long term. Let me explore something else. So I don't have hard metrics to give you, but I would say it's been pretty broad in terms of where we've brought people from.
So the AWIT program is very welcoming. It's like, come give it a try. And what I like about it is we talk about it's vividly transparent, vividly clear. Like if you go to the website, you see everything there. It's here's how to sign up. You literally click the button here, and the training it's a paid training, which is beautiful. Say you commit, we commit. We're here to make this partnership work. Right?
Exactly.
Is there an interview process? Like if I was to go there, and if I was a woman applying and wanted to get in, I would click the button. It would take me through the process. Is there an interview process after that? How does it work?
So we go through a recruitment process. So you would submit your resume either through the job posting or directly through our email address, AWIT email address. You would receive a call from one of our talent acquisition team members, and they would run through kind of a pre-screening questionnaire, essentially, in terms of there are some basic prerequisites we need, like a driver's license and a high school education or equivalent, and just get a sense of kind of, again, does that individual meet the basic requirements, and then talking a little bit more about the opportunities that we have, because we're recruiting for different roles in different locations, so getting a better sense of where they want to work, what kind of work they're interested in, and then assuming that kind of fits or goes well, we'll schedule them for an interview. So at that point, we involve managers from our operations, because I think it's important to, obviously, we're involved from an HR and talent acquisition perspective, and they're involved to really give the candidates a better sense of here's what you're going to be doing, here's what to expect on the job, and kind of give them an opportunity to ask questions as well. So our operations teams are heavily involved in the process in the selection, and again, assuming that goes well, we'll bring them on board and start them into training into kind of one of our
burning question. Zone into the operations team. What's a role of an operations team? Like somebody who's leading a site? What do you mean by operations team?
So it'll be a superintendent, so someone leading a part of our operations, or one of our operations managers who, the supers would roll into. So it depends on the...
This is beautiful though. It's like boots on the ground. These are people who are actually touching, feeling on the site. So if I'm a candidate there, and I'm nervous, because I'm sure there is nerves there, especially transitioning careers, to say, I don't really know what to expect. And now if I see a site personnel or somebody who can speak to that, who's actually part of that site team, and they say, hey, if you want to go to this site, here's what to expect.
Yeah.
That's magical. I was like, it's not fluffy bullshit. Like, this is the actual stuff to expect. This is what you're going to get into.
Yeah.
Right. And here you say logistically, there's a whole bunch of different roles. How far logistically we're spanning?
So we've been focused on Ontario. So although we have a heavy presence in the GTA naturally, but we've spanned essentially from Windsor to Ottawa in terms of where we've put people, and we're currently looking at more Northern Ontario. But I would say as far north as we've gone so far as Barrie, but we're looking at some opportunities north of there.
Like this is just, it's mind blowing. Like, it's listen up, folks, especially women. Like, there are opportunities that sometimes are not even spoken about and disregarded and sort of suppressed and compartmentalized and like, nah, not for me. It actually is. If there's something that sort of jumps out at you and sparks interest, take an interest, click the button, just ask the questions. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
For sure. For sure. And that's, the purpose of kind of our recruitment process and getting on the phone with someone from our team and going through that, it gives, as much as it's, giving us a better idea of who the candidate is, it's vice versa as well, giving them a better idea of what to expect, what the training looks like, that whole process too. So, yeah.
Okay, so I got one more question before we transition here. But when we talk about the AWIT program, we have a feedback loop. Like, how are we doing? Do we know what we're doing? How we're doing? How's it landing? Is it? You're nodding your head, so tell me. Go ahead.
In terms of kind of participants that have come into the program,
yeah, like sort of. So even if I'm a participant in the program and I've been a part of it for do we get feedback? Like, how do we get better at it? How do we know we're doing great?
Yeah, and it's a learning. Like, it's a learning. Even if I think back to where we started, like we've come a long way in terms of the process and how we manage that. We have people on our team that are reach back out to participants who have come through the program, see how they're doing. We have more formal feedback loops in terms of surveys and whatnot that we send out, but some of that comes just from reaching out and having conversations. How are things going? I'd love to, even myself, get out to site more and actually see them. But yeah, just having that feedback directly to us, I think, is important, as well as through our operations teams to say, okay, how's it working? How's it going?
Yeah, so like, again, in the construction industry, we don't even do the feedback process enough, right? So now to talk about, we're launching a program and we're actually getting feedback from people who are actually doing it and the operations, because oftentimes, the feedback loop is sort of only shit. This is going shitty, right? And you only get it from one perspective. And now we're actually like digging in to go, no, we actually care. And we're actually truly committed to, like, this is the other thing. It's like, it's not just as simple as we're going to offer this program and if it works, it works. No, we're actually committed to it.
Yeah.
We actually give a shit and we're actually following through. And we're demonstrating organically, like, excuse me, ladies, you matter. And you matter now more than ever. So get involved.
Yeah.
And your voice matters and it's heard and you're respected and we're here for you.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like, that's beautiful. And it sort of just comes right into. It captures something you had said at one point in time that women are disproportionately underrepresented in our industry. And so, what does that mean to you today? Now being part of this for a period of time.
We've obviously come a long way, but we have a lot more work to do. A lot more work. I pulled one stat just to put in perspective that's more recent in the last couple of years in terms of the industry. And I think this is an Ontario stat, but women account for 3% of on-site and skilled trades work. And so if we think of in the context of the population, if we attracted 1% of women aged 20 to 49 in Canada, so this is national, that would bring 73,000 new workers to the trades and to our industry. That's huge. So if we think of the opportunity, the fact that women really account for half of the working population, we've come a long way, but there's so much more opportunity. And so I think both, as an industry as a whole, we've still got a long way to go, which excites me because it means we're doing a lot, but we've got a long road ahead of us in terms of continuing to bring that number up. That's
magical, right? And there's momentum, and let's keep going. And so, for those listening, if it still hasn't clicked and you still don't have that same energy that, I can tell you I have sitting here, I want to illuminate one other thing is that, and Jenna, please speak to this. part of the process, especially in the Aecon realm, is there's a mentorship and a networking arm of this. So speak to that, because it's sort of, to me, I make that mean, as a woman entering, I wouldn't be alone. So I don't want to lead too far into that question, but speak to me about the networking and the mentorship program.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so from a mentorship perspective, a lot of that comes on site. Obviously, we through our operations team, whether it's a 4-person or superintendent or manager, making sure they're getting the appropriate mentorship on site. But from an overall mentorship networking perspective, I think we've been thoughtful, I would say, in bringing the women in cohorts, we call it, because they come in as a group, they train as a group, and the size of that depends on the location and the trade and all of that sort of stuff, but they build that network. So even though they may go out to different job sites, when they finish training and actually go on the job, they've started to build that network amongst themselves across Aecon to have those individuals that they can reach out to say, hey, here's what I'm faced with, or here's how it's going, and having that kind of connection, I think, is important.
So that's why you talk about cohorts of about 20 people come in. 10
to 12, I would say.
Okay, yeah. 10 to 12 come in, so that those group of individuals are in alignment for the duration of the process, whether they end up on the same site or not. There's different variables, I'm sure, that would affect that.
Yep.
But that's really cool. So there's that connection piece, right? There's that human to human connection that, hey, I matter and I've got support behind me, right? And so now, Aecon's given me the information I need to make the decisions, right? I'm going to a site, so I know I'm contributing, right? So, and I have the autonomy to choose, like, do I want to be here? Or if I speak to, Jennifer, who's on a different site and she's experiencing something different, I can speak up and say, okay, Jennifer shared this or that. That's really, really,
Absolutely.
Really cool.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And it's important. It's important because I think it's important to feeling like, they've got people that they can rely on and have that support from others. So
we've got your back. We're not just high-fiving you saying, okay, let's get out there, rock and roll, and here's a bunch of tools and go do construction. It doesn't work that way.
Absolutely.
And we're actually amplifying that right now. There's the old traditional ideologies where the sink or swim. Okay, well, I'll show up to site with a hammer and start hammering. Well, fuck, if you've never hammered before, how are you going to know how to hammer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So we're not only flipping the script with the workforce entry, we're also flipping the script on the way it's always been done as far as training, education, mentoring, and supporting. Like, we're actually give a shit. We're actually here for you.
Yep.
And we've got your back blindly.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely.
That's so heartwarming, and that is like, there is what needs to be communicated more often, because it is so, we've all seen it, we've all lived it, we've all done it. It's like, well, that site's underperforming their shit. Well, have we supported them? Did we give them everything they need? If the answer is no, then stand up and look in the mirror, folks.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm super curious, is there, in your opinion, what does AWIT teach that's not taught in schools? If there's one takeaway.
I think this is more kind of not practically speaking teaching, but to me it's showing or teaching, if you will, that women can do the job. Like, you can be a woman in construction, in the trades, on site, and you can learn and you can do it. Like, you can do it. Doesn't matter that you're a woman, doesn't matter that that you are a different gender than what we typically see in industry. You can do it. And so, and you see that, I've seen that speaking with some of the women that have come through the program and may not have, we talked about picking up a hammer, like literally may not have picked up a hammer coming in, and we have a few that are leading crews. They're 4 persons now on crews, and they came through the program and again had zero construction experience coming in. So that's probably not a direct answer to your question, but to me it's like it goes back to the education in schools and teaching girls and young women that they can be in the industry and there's a place for them here. To me, that's what we're trying to do with AWIT.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's huge for me. I think it is absolutely relevant. And if I didn't have headphones stuck to my head, I'd be jumping out of my chair with excitement, because I'm like, that's what we're fucking talking about.
Yeah.
Any female that's been in the industry to this point in time has been a trailblazer. And hats off to her. She has really been pushed, and much of which we'll never hear about because it's just not going to be talked about. And now we're talking about something very different where in this program, Aecon is supporting, but we're also saying like we're creating a culture of psychological safety. Like we've got your back. You're safe here. Your voice matters. You matter.
Yeah.
And now again, when you talk about the school system, you're flipping the script again to say, do it, right? Do it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right. Where I'm pausing because it's emotional. It's like, it's powerful. It's powerful. You sit there and go, it's just not talked about. Somebody says, I want to get in construction. What the fuck do you want to do that for? Except that we have so many different conversations in the world we live today. Everything is about equality, except when. Like this is breaking those barriers. This is like, guys, we're all in on this. Equality is not a public relations thing when they think it's the right thing to say. No, I can suck it up. This is it. Want to do it, right? So, okay, so let's dig a little deeper. Now, AWIT. If you could pin it to one thing here, like what's the biggest challenge of the program today?
Well, I would say if it was even like beginning of last year, a year ago, I would have said getting candidates interested, right? Like getting the word out to be like the awareness piece. And we've come a long way with that, I think, by virtue of kind of getting more of a campaign out there, getting the word out through word of mouth and other avenues. So I think that would have been one of the biggest challenges. But I think we've come a long way in that sense. I think it's continuing to drive the conversation and look at, okay, how do we broaden this across other areas of our business, across Canada, and we focused in Ontario, but building out those plans. So I wouldn't say that's like a challenge we can't overcome. We will, because we've come a long way with the program so far, but it's taking it to the next level for me that I'm starting to think about. Okay, so taking it to the next level, so creating, amplifying the awareness. Absolutely. Okay, totally abstract question. You got an airplane flying to the sky. And it's pulling a banner, and you're creating awareness. What is that banner saying? What is that banner saying to women out there? It's saying, I'm going to say it in like 2 sentences, but sure, there's a place for you in the construction industry at Aecon. Come and join us. Oh, my headphones almost fell off there. Like, yeah. Fuck. There's a place for you in construction. Come and join today, right? Yeah. Come and join today. And I love that because, Aecon is very forward thinking. And, part of why we're here today is because I believe in a lot of the things that Aecon can represent, right? There's a lot of other organizations that are sort of not there yet. Some are coming there, and some just haven't picked it up yet. Yep. I mean, there's that late adopter cycle and everything else. So this is really cool. It's like, there's a place for you. Okay, so now looking at that, is there a common narrative or a roadblock that you hear from women? And let's pin this here. So now I'm going to tailor this one here. If you've got women who are applying, they go through the interview process. I'm making an assumption here, so this may or may not be accurate. Is there still roadblocks that show up at that point in time? Yeah, one that comes to mind is by virtue of like the industry and is the hours. So you think about our construction starts early. Right. And so again, this isn't specific to women by any stretch. It's in any of our employees that work for us, particularly in the field. But when you've got to be on site at 6:30, maybe 7 in the morning, that can be a challenge for childcare. So people that have those kind of commitments and having to work through that, where maybe they can't commit to what the hours may look like, and that's a broad, I would say, barrier as an industry that I think is needs to be addressed somehow. But that can be a roadblock for sure. And again, that's not specific to women, but I obviously am closer to it by virtue of this program. So that's something that definitely comes up. And then, roadblocks in terms of kind of basic, I go back to like basic prerequisites, like a driver's license. So someone that may not drive or have access to a vehicle and being able to get to site every day. Again, another barrier not specific to women. I just hear it more being closer to the program.
It's interesting, right? So, and I wonder, like, what are the expectations going in, right? Especially with the childcare piece, right? So, if I'm applying for a construction career, I wonder what are they? And I don't know. I mean, the expectation could be, well, maybe there's a spot that works between 9 and 2, and sometimes there is, right? Or there's other shifts. So very, very interesting, right? And I'm going to volley this one out to the universe, and I'm excited to hear how the Aecon team sort of navigates around this one, right? But there's 2 roadblocks. Like, so, okay, team, how do we get all these wonderful minds in a room, and how do we take on the childcare issues, or how do we take care of the driver's license? Like, what does it look like? Is it like an Aecon driving program? I don't know. Like, hey, Tesla, get out there. This is Tesla, send the cars here, and I don't know. Or do we have like the programs exist, right? But it's like the childcare. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Maybe that's phase 2 for me.
Like that's phase 2. That's phase 2. This is throwing it out to the orbit because there's a whole bunch of great minds out there, and there's going to be somebody. If there's a listener out there who has this magical idea, then shoot us a message and tell us what lands, and let's collaborate and brainstorm on this, because this is super cool. Like, there's a real life roadblock. Holy shit, there's children involved. Like, holy shit, this is real. Whether it's a family dynamic, whether it's men, whether it's women, like, families need to adopt to this. Right. And by the way, I don't yet have my license, or I don't know how to do that, or whatever. There's roadblocks around that. So how can we? Because the old adage of the traditional mindset for construction, and I've talked about this, and I'm going to talk about it again, is it was like, it was, if this person's not going to show up this time, at 7 o'clock every morning, and they don't have a car, don't fucking show up. Well, that doesn't work. So scrap the idea. Now it should be, how can we help support this person? Like, if there's a fit, and if this person is the right person, then how do we support this person? Rather than us making assumptions and saying, he or she's just a useless person, because that was the old adage that hurts me so much to say that. It's like, zone in. Jenna can't get to work at 7 o'clock. Okay, so what works for her? Like, what's happening? And does anybody have that conversation? Say, Jenna, what do you need? If I started 15 minutes earlier, that would make my world. Okay, so start 15 minutes earlier. But if we never ask these questions, we don't know. We make these stupid assumptions. So, I'm saying all this because it's a special spot in my heart, and I'm passionate about it, and it's exactly who I am. It's like, ask the damn questions, become curious. When you become curious, like, on the other side of that struggle is where growth emerges. So we see, it's really easy to see the struggle and go, oh, this person is get rid of this person. Except when you dig in, and when you choose to dig in and get past the roadblocks, that simple roadblock might be so simple. Like, okay, so I don't know, 15 minutes because whatever. Who knows? I don't know what those 15 minutes are. I don't know what the half an hour is. If maybe Jenna can commit to starting at 8 o'clock Monday to Thursday, and Friday she can work later. Okay, well, fuck, we just figured it out. Instead of compartmentalizing everybody in the same bucket and saying, well, if you don't fit this bucket, you're out. No. We're talking about diversifying buckets. Create different buckets. They don't have to be round. They don't have to be square. Create triangle buckets. I don't care. Like, this is where it becomes fun, right? So now, again, I'm really curious, right? The construction sites, the construction worlds, which I've been a part of for so long, and I fully understand it. So I'm really curious, and I have assumptions and biases that I'm not yet willing to share without infiltrating sort of the question that's in my mind. But it's, in your opinion, how have the sites shifted or adapted with women presence?
I think, obviously, I'm not on a site directly, but I get insight through our various teams and through women that have come through the program. And to me, I think it's changed, like, when we think of diversity of thought and the premise of different perspectives and thoughts and ways of looking at a problem. Like, how do they're faced with a problem on site, or something hasn't gone according to plan. I do think there's, and I don't have a specific example to point to, but just more than one way to think about something, and diversity in thinking through how to approach a problem. And to me, when you're diversifying your workforce, whether it's bringing more females in, I believe that you're going to get a different perspective and different ways of approaching challenges and a different way of doing the work. So to me, that's the biggest thing that jumps out.
Okay, can I poke at that one a bit? You tell me more. Tell me more about your thought on that. As far as you get different perspectives, you get different ideas. Tell me more what you mean by that. Let's go later deeper.
I think so. If we're faced, and I don't think this is specific to a construction site, I would see it in my own experiences when you have people that come from varying backgrounds and different like career experiences or life experiences and come to the table, and you're open to what they have to say and what they have to offer and how they're going to approach a challenge, you're going to get more than if you're just either don't ask the questions or don't look to other individuals for support. So I'm probably not answering it very directly, but to me, I've seen examples where I've worked on amazing teams and with amazing people, and what we've got accomplished together, bringing our different experiences and different perspectives has been huge. So I can definitely see how that translates onto our sites and in terms of bringing women in and what they can offer.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I think you did answer the question. Yeah, it's very much inclusiveness. Like now you're actually giving a shit about somebody else's thoughts, right? Where, and I'm going to transition to men for a split second, but let's say first of all, we know that men are wired different. Men are problem solvers, right? A problem comes up, how do I fix it? Well, drill a hole through that wall and fish through that wall, right? Whereas women traditionally lead with more empathy. So they might peel back for a second and look at something and go, hang on a second, let's look at it. And what you're illustrating and illuminating is not only is that a possibility, it's also, and I love what you said, where you're bringing in other presuppositions from other industries and other areas of life. Now we're breaking the barriers of, socioeconomic and cultural and education. I don't give a shit what you think you've done. Here's where you are today. So bring the whole version of you, the holistic approach, and say, okay, we have a problem in front of us. How can we solve this? Which is so magical, right? Again, there's sort of that old adage of, we walk into a board, let's just use board, we walk into a boardroom and say, we have this problem, here's how we're going to solve it. And okay, what do you guys think? Well, nobody gives a shit at that point in time. If the four-person leading the site is going to say, this is how we're going to solve the problem, what do you guys think? He or she doesn't really give a shit at that point in time. It's now you're peeling back and saying, tell me more. So that's cool. Like it's opened up a different pathway, a different way to think of things, different way to look at things, right? And if we have the right support, and it sounds like we do, if we have the right psychological safety on that site to say, hey, I care what you think, then those ideas are going to flow. And then you're going to get creativity and innovation. I mean, especially in construction, who the hell doesn't want creativity and innovation? Right?
Absolutely.
Like that's magical. It's like, okay, well, the old traditional metrics may have served well then, and how do we amplify that? Yeah. And how do we add to that, right? So what about this one then? What is there one thing that sort of exists on a construction site that didn't before exist and sort of is directly related to the incubation of women on sites?
Having female forepersons. So that's an assumption, obviously, because we obviously had them, but having more leaders on sites that are actually leading crews of people. I would say, again, it existed, but not to the extent that I've seen it through the course of this program and how I anticipate seeing it as the women that we brought in continue to grow their careers over the next few years.
Oh my God, I mean, I'm smiling with excitement, and we're gonna dive into this, maybe not on this episode, but perhaps future. I mean, I can't wait to get some female foreperson and have these conversations, because I there's so many things buzzing through my mind, like living construction sites, living it, and now envision. I haven't yet had the pleasure of working with a female foreperson, and I'm super in my mind. I'm like, holy shit! How do site meetings change with a female there? How do conversations change? How do emotional outbursts change? Like, there's so many different dynamics, right? Where, again, traditionally, two men can sort of armor up and egotistically get in each other's face, and it's not that it doesn't happen anymore, but it's a lot less. The physical interaction could occur, right? And now having a female there, again, I'm not stereotyping. I'm simply saying we know that there's physiological, genetic, different makeups. Females offer a different twist on, or they can offer a different twist on things. So I can't wait to have deeper conversations to really dive into that. I love that, right? Just having female leadership.
Yeah.
It changes everything.
Yeah. It's awesome.
It changes everything. Wow. Okay, awesome. Jenna, coming back into the AWIT program, talk to me about the unions. Where are we getting union? How is the union supporting the overall program?
Yeah, so we've partnered with several unions and continue to kind of expand those partnerships through, obviously, the unions we already work with, depending on the roles we're looking at and the opportunities. But, one of our biggest partnerships since the beginning has been LIUNA, for example. So we work with them to provide the training. So they'll partner with us in actually providing some of the training that the women receive if they're coming into, for example, a laborer role. And then we will supplement that with training on our end, internal training at Aecon. So, for example, we'll recruit them. They'll go to the union for a period of time. One of the specific programs we put many of the women through LIUNA is through their construction craft worker program. So that specifically is an 8-week program where they'll go to the union. They'll get, say, entry level, but that specific program is designed for people that are new to the role and new to that type of work. And then they'll essentially, once they've completed training on both the Aecon side and the union side, they'll join the union, become a member, which the union helps facilitate, obviously, and then they'll start employment with us. So we've got, again, various partnerships with unions, LIUNA being one of them. And then we've also, this past year, had a partnership with the Ministry of Labour Training and Skills Development. So through their Skills Development Fund, had the opportunity to partner with them to accelerate the program, accelerate the training we can offer, and essentially kind of help us grow the program to what it is today and then kind of as we go forward.
That's awesome. So there's a whole bunch of things happening here. And what's happening is it seems like the unions really get involved. Aecon does the recruitment piece of the puzzle. Aecon sort of puts the cohorts together, and that cohort moves collectively as a group through the Aecon training and then transitions to, in this case, we're talking LIUNA, or whoever it's going to be based on the work available or work needs.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
So we can commission other unions as needed to say, hey team, like everybody on board here because we've got a whole bunch of workers ready to roll.
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
Wow,
yes.
That's pretty cool. That's really nice to hear that there's a lot of support and a lot of awareness being created. So thanks for getting into that piece. There's so many other things, but and if we haven't touched on this, I just sort of want to come back into this. Like, how do we introduce this to girls at a younger age? How do we start those conversations?
I think part of it is, well, I think it's girls and boys, right? Because we're seeing such a shortage of skilled trades and labor. Yes. But generally it does, to me, start in the schools. But I think also part of it is, and not to go too down this path, but part of it is also supporting the parents in educating. Because I think there's a huge influence, as a personal thought of mine, but like there's a huge influence that parents have. And again, thinking about my own personal experience and career path and school and what I chose and why and the influence that my parents had on that path. And so I do think there's an avenue where, and I don't have a clear answer on like the 1, 2, 3 how we do this, but to me part of it is also parents and helping educate and influence them on the choices and the choices that their kids make in school and in post-secondary.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like there's so much energy inside me when you said, because, and I'm going to say something that's going to probably piss a whole bunch of people off. And if that's going to be the case, then, I appreciate you. We're not for each other today, except that there's a big misconception that there's a separation between schools and parenting. Well, the school should do this and the parents should do this. Bullshit. It's a partnership, right? So the question becomes, to the educator. And I ask these questions, so anybody who hasn't asked these questions, when you go for parent-teacher interview, rather than, ask the teacher, hey, what can we do as parents to support your initiatives? Because if we're supporting the school system, then they're going to support you're going to grow a better human being. And the conversation start there. Hey, kids, by the way, right? Then it becomes educating the people in trades. They say, hey, man, are you having conversations with your kids? What does that look like, right? We have take your kids to work, but that doesn't occur till they're 14 or 13 or 14 in grade 9.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, what does it look like to have, and I don't even know, I'm sure this exists, so I'm not the first person to have an open site date where you bring an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old to site, put up, make something magical, pop up a tent and say, hey kids, come and look at this cool site. Like, there's something cool when you walk on a construction site that's just overwhelming. Overwhelming. Yeah. And in the mind of a young child, 6, 7, 8 years old, where now they're in a stage of life where they get life and they're still expanding. That would just blow their mind, right? As a parent, think how proud you are. Hey, this is what I do every day. This is what mom does every day.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like that's the stuff we're talking about. And it's, the schools, yes, the schools need to talk about it. And it's not an or conversation, it's an and conversation. And by the way, get our fucking heads out of our asses sometimes because there's accountability across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and if that, if you heard that and that pissed you off, then I encourage you to look in the mirror and say, like, why is that bothering me so much? Like, what actually stung? What actually sort of resonates? Because there's something special there. And I'm saying that because I truly believe in it. I mean, I talk about it. And I've lived construction my entire life. And there was a point in time where I didn't like it. I'm going to tell you this straight. Like, I hated it. I couldn't believe there was so many limiting beliefs and stories going through my head. And then it's just that I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I had today. And now I look across the board, whether it's our children or future children, or even, I mentioned my nephews that are 18, 19 years old. Never even been in the realm of construction. Like, shame on us. What are we doing to society? What are we doing?
Yeah.
So
maybe because they don't know.
They just don't know. They don't know. Like we're human beings. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really easy to make a judgment when you don't know what the hell you don't know. Fuck, I never want to do that. Well, how do you know that? Based on what? Well, based on what? Like, based on, I heard this. You heard one thing from one person at one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, you can lose a finger. Sure. You could absolutely get hurt. Or, here's what else. Like, or you can learn how to work safe. You can learn how to be aware. You can create that awareness. Like, we can, there's so many misconceptions, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here with you, but there's so many misconceptions about construction that's been dirty, dark, and disrespected for years. And that's why we're having this conversation today, because it's time to flip the script, right? It's time to really make a difference and illuminate what the hell is possible.
Yeah.
So thanks for getting into that. I suppose the next sort of thing that buzzes around, because I want to come back to the women for a second, and if we haven't already capitalized on it, please succinctly share if there's sort of one big common myth or misconception about women in construction that we haven't already touched on. What's worth sharing? It's worth debunking today.
I think we've touched on it in some way, but I'll say it again, is their ability to actually do the job. Like, when you think of construction, again, you think of a lot of physical work, obviously, which by many respects it is, obviously, but so what? Yeah. Like, we've shown, and the women that have come into the program have shown time and time again that they can do it. And I think that still, and maybe this is not fair to say, but I think there's still somewhat of a misconception in terms of, like, can women physically do the job? Like, can they physically do the job? Well, they can. Yeah. We've got to train them. We've got to provide them with the tools to do it, but they can. They're doing it. So again, I think that's something that as an industry, there's room to move in terms of that conception or misconception, but we're doing it. We're doing it. So.
And I think that, thank you, because again, I'm smiling with huge excitement, because let's go, folks. I mean, we're ahead of the curve. We've got tools and technology that advanced so far, right? So a lot of that sort of we've gotten smarter on how we move things, how we live, how we actually do things, right? And we actually step back and go, how can I make this easier? Yeah. Right? So just because you've always lifted a box using your back and you've been lucky, okay, you've been lucky, right? But if we educate you how to properly lift, move, twist, and we have huge health and wellness programs available to us, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that we're physically becoming stronger as a society, mentally, emotionally, and physically as well. I mean, that I love that you bring it up, because I think that it's still a stigma that's there that absolutely needs to be debunked. Absolutely. Well, women aren't strong enough. Bullshit, right? Bullshit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, thanks. Thank you. Abstract question for a second. Tinkerbell from, I think she was Tinkerbell Peter Pan. Tinkerbell comes down to it. She's floating with her little pixie dust, and she has an opportunity to sort of sprinkle pixie dust and wave her little magic wand and change one thing about construction. What does she change? I don't have it. Like, to me, it's looking at how do we continue to move the needle on the makeup of our industry in terms of people and who are working in it, and continuing to diversify them. But
I wouldn't change anything about the industry. I think it's an exciting, it's an exciting industry to be part of. It's growing. I never thought I'd end up working in construction, but I love it, and here I am. So I wouldn't change anything. I think it's how do we continue to move the needle on things like AWIT and diversifying our workforce and the people that work within it, and making sure that it continues to be a great place to work, because I love the industry. I do.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And here in my mind, I'm like, okay, yeah, what's the one thing you're changing? Like, no, there's nothing I'm changing, because everything that's already happened has helped formulate where we are today. So how do we take that same energy and momentum and push forward?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I came across a couple of different things on the website, and maybe these are interrelated. If not, can you speak to them? There's AWIN, which is Aecon Women Network.
Aecon Women Inclusion Network.
Inclusion Network.
Yes, and those are there's not interrelated, so I won't speak to those too much. But essentially, it's part of our employee resource groups that we offer at Aecon, where that are focused on different areas of interest. So that's specifically one of those resource groups that supports kind of a number of different initiatives related to women at Aecon, but it's kind of separate from this program specifically.
Okay, so I came across it, I navigated to some of the sites, so somebody else may. I want to identify that. What about the shoebox program? Again, separate?
Same thing, yeah. Separate, initiative that we work on in Aecon, but not tied to this program specifically. Yeah.
And for everybody listening out there, like, Aecon is up to big shit. It's not just one offshoot program that's just a flash in the pan. We've got multiple things happening here. So that's really cool. All right. I got something fun for you. Ready for this? You got 3 rapid fire questions.
So. Yeah.
3 rapid fire questions. First things that come to mind for you. So, ready? Set. Construction is.
In one word, or
your choice, your show.
Construction is an exciting, growing industry that I love to be a part of. I love it.
Construction needs less of.
Ooh. Oh, I don't know. You've stumped me on that one.
Okay, we're going to move to the last one then.
Okay.
And this is important. This is coming back to the women specifically. The biggest limiting belief that women need to let go of is?
Again, I feel like I've said this a few times, but their ability to do the job and be successful. Because I think, and again, this is part of me speaking with women that have come in through the program, or just, women that are contemplating coming into the program or the industry, is that belief that, the industry has been male dominated and there's a reason for that. And it's like, no, we just haven't, the industry hasn't traditionally done a good job of looking at women as a key part of the workforce. And so I think, it's that belief, that limiting belief of like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I don't think I can do that. And like, they can, and they absolutely can. And I would say, give yourself the chance to learn more about the program, more about Aecon and the opportunities we offer, because they absolutely can do it, or whoever's listening can absolutely do it, and we want to support you with that.
Yeah, thank you. And it has come up a couple, because it's a common narrative. Like, this is it, folks. Give your head a shake. Limiting belief is I can't do this. Bullshit. You can do it.
Absolutely.
Believe in yourself. Right?
Absolutely.
Believe in yourself. Take the leap of faith, because we got you.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Aecon's here. Aecon's got you. So, bringing it full circle now, Jenna, how do people get in touch with you? How do people get in touch with the program?
Yeah, so the easiest way is they can email us directly. So through our Aecon website, if you go to aecon.com, there's a specific page from there that'll give you some more information on Aecon Women in Trades. So you can certainly take a look there. It'll give you, there's some FAQs and some general information. Our best way to get in touch as quickly is through our email. So it's AWIT, A.W.I.T at aecon.com. You can send us your resume. You can send us an email asking a question, and someone from our team will get in touch with you.
Beautiful, thank you. And all this stuff will be in the show notes, because it is really that tremendously simple. So thanks to all the IT gurus in the background who made that seamless, where it's like, click here, takes you in. Do it. If you've been sort of sitting on the edge of the table, I encourage you wholeheartedly. Like, we've got you. There are people here that support you. Do it. Jenna, like high five on this one, man. Well done. This has been excellent. This has been magical. I can't wait to get this out because it's so special. I think that there's so many people that need to hear this, and I hope to have deeper discussions with you about this in the future. So thanks for making time for this. Thanks for being a part of it.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Hey, thanks everybody for hanging out to the end. That one was really special. Jenna brought with us some really tangible takeaways, some illuminating things, and what a wonderful conversation. I throw that out into the orbit for any professional out there. Is how can we collectively put the brain power we have together and bob and weave around some of the challenges of the childcare issues that is not simply geared towards women, but geared towards many professionals. How do we bob, pivot, and weave around the driver's license issues? How do we create the awareness? Look, we've got enough brain power in this world to solve any problem, yet why do we close the doors and continue to check out when things get sort of challenging? I invite everybody to dig in and help create the awareness that we need to bring females into the industry. Jenna, Aecon, well done. The AWIT program is phenomenal. Get in touch with AWIT, AWIT, A.W.I.T at aecon.com. Go to aecon.com, aecon.com. Connect. Jenna was spectacular. Thanks, guys, for hanging out to the end. My ask of you, of course, is that if something served well and this episode landed, click on Buy Me a Coffee link, donate to the show, and keep the wonderful content coming. Till next time, Jonathan Cinelli,